What causes passive aggressive behavior? Hi there, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm of course Nachi Sinha, back with another video on, in this series on passive aggressive behavior. In the previous videos, we've talked about the signs of passive aggressive behavior. Before that, we talked about sort of an overview on the entire aspect of this sort of behavior. Well, if you haven't seen them already, I would recommend that you have a look. Today, though, I am going to talk about underlying causes that result in passive aggressive behavior. So here we go. Now, many people will relate to the fact that with time we develop certain behaviors due to, past experience or learned behaviors. In the same way, patterns of passive behavior and sort of non-assertiveness might have been learned in childhood as a sort of a coping strategy or the response to parents who've been controlling or narcissistic, right? So to cope with such situations, a child might develop a passive aggressive behavior pattern. For example, if a child was put down or punished for expressing their feelings, or maybe showing disagreement, then the child would eventually learn to substitute the expression of their thoughts, feelings for passive resistance, which means agreeing with parents, just to sort of take care of the immediate problem, and we may even known as a good child, right? I mean, one of the major reasons for such behavior is the consistent pattern of rejection or punishment within the family from primary caregivers. So, let's look a bit further into some depth into these causes. Now, an individual's family history, it does matter a lot and makes it some big difference. And there are some questions that you should ask yourself. For example, was there any controlling or oppressive parent or parent figure or sibling in the person whose behavior you're trying to describe as passive aggressive? Now, if the person has gone through a sort of situation with distress or a sort of trauma in early childhood, or has had a difficult family life, then they might develop signs of passive aggression. Now, was there some sort of competition for attention from primary caregivers? What about competition for attention from friends or competition for friendship? Were those things a part of their growing up period? Was there a sort of altercation or obedience and individual character, too much focus on the sort of principled upbringing stance in childhood? At times, certain relationships that one has to as a romantic partner or friendships can also lead to this sort of behavior. Second point there would be, now if there is a dominant person in the family of the person who has passive aggressive behavior, did the passive aggressive person or the person exhibiting that behavior notice others in the family utilizing sort of this aggression, which is from a distance, some sort of non-involved aggression, which was so not direct but indirect strategy to oppose or stay away from the conflict, or just kind of stonewall the conflict? Now, if they did, then this sort of learned behavior can also proceed to the cycle of passive aggression. So the child sees how others are behaving in how they're handling conflict by staying away and not getting directly involved, and then picks up those traits. So where sort of troublesome feelings like, outrage, dissatisfaction, hurt, or sort of a disdain or upset about something were they kind of put aside, stowed away, hidden, but sort of constantly simmering in the household? I mean, if the answer to these questions is yes, then that might be one of the reasons for the development of passive aggressive behavior. Number three, was there sort of a dominating figure of the other gender who sort of had a unnecessary and significant level of impact on your life? Now, this can be a parent or a sibling. It could also be an instructor, companion, a leader, significant other or partner. At times, working around people who are dominant can also contribute to the creation of aggressive behavior. Notice the power elements of how the person with passive aggression interacts with a tough, lady or a tough man. Does the passive aggressive fight and oppose, as a rebel would? Is it a scenario of flight and staying away from significant issues? Or then again, do they sort of freeze and go into denial? And number four, if we talk about females specifically, that the passive aggressive behavior can emerge due to several factors, which for a female with passive aggressive behavior, for instance, was the female individual impacted by at least one dominant and tyrannical male figure growing up? Or does she need to manage this male predominant condition, like, let's say in the family or school or work? Was her involvement with another lady's, interaction, was that based on like a jealousy, or was there a factor of jealousy instead of and sabotage instead of support and cooperation? I mean, you can see how this mistrust would kind of seeping in, and kind of almost, you can see how that passive aggressive behavior will develop almost as a way of survival at that time. Number five, did the person experience any friendly shortcomings or potential, obstacles during their early stages of life? This might incorporate, being judged or ridiculed because of appearance, or a lack of intellectual speech or social, capacity, either real or perceived. Doesn't really matter. Or even the present. Let's say in the present moment, in the present time, are these a part of their life? If yes, then this is a serious, significant cause for passive aggression. And number six, at times, social setting and cultural norms can also impact or even lead to passive aggression. So were there, when you think about it, any cultural or social requirements that restrained that individual's opportunity, and freedom to express themselves? This might incorporate the objective of orientation, social separation, class contrast, attitudinal accuracy, or other sociocultural limitations. Number seven, in the work environment, a passive aggressive employee or employer might involve these procedures, the type of control, or potentially use it as sort of a terrorizing mechanism, where the employer could, make faces, frown, roll their eyes, a classic example, when given responsibilities to take care of, or may concur courteously, and afterwards take ages to do them. By doing this, they're showing disturbance in the expectation that they won't be approached to rehash these undertakings. The bosses can likewise utilize passive aggression when defied with employee issues, choosing not to see, choosing not to confront realities when, or managing sort of different instances of harassment or, behaviors of that kind. This avoidant conduct can really harm people, not just, individually, but has the potential to harm people in groups inside associations, where this sort of culture develops where, when you see the toxic culture when you think about an organization or any place of work, and you wonder why it has a toxic culture. Well, this is one of the examples where a group of people subjected to a particular kind of behavior is sort of evolving a toxic coping mechanism as a whole, and the culture of that organization becomes toxic. Now, with all the questions, one should find answers and sort of get into an in-depth analysis of the cause of passive aggression. The way I look at it is, it might be worthwhile to actually seek professional advice, because it is worth to know, what the causes might be. It is different for everybody, right? So it's important to analyze and keep a track of what led to your passive aggressive behavior. Was it the past? Was something in the near present, or is it a traumatic event that you've been through? Passive aggressive behavior frequently emerges when a person feels powerless and comes up short on areas of strength in a challenging environment. So if the negative value, the experience of that is significant, the negative experience, then that does cause a sort of insecure feeling. Now that you have an idea about the possible causes of passive aggressive behavior, you can easily find your sort of own understanding, but it might still help you to reach out to a professional. Either way, I hope this video made some sense and answered some questions for you. In my next video in this series, I will discuss the characteristics of passive aggressive partners in relationships. My video is going to shed light and help you analyze your own behaviors and that of your partners in a much better way. I'll see you then. However, before we go, as always, should you notice that you're struggling and need help, please reach out and ask for help. It makes a difference. I'll see you again in the next video. Until then, take it easy and look after yourself. And thanks. Bye-bye.